Disturbing records. Beauty and the Beast. Yosemite National Park is gorgeous, but this year's raging waters are risky.
You can see that these rapids are extremely dangerous.
Feeling the squeeze. Citrus farmers say Hurricane Ian is taking a bite out of this year's crop.
That already took a very small crop and made it smaller.
Shark bite. A woman is bitten wading in the surf.
Across, the entire world, it's a rare event.
And how does your garden grow?
The 3 most important tips for starting your garden each spring.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Angela Brown. Damage assessments are underway in southwest Virginia after storms rolled through Tuesday evening. The National Weather Service confirms 2 tornadoes touched down. The damage survey continues in Pennington Gap near Bristol, where Kylie Hill has more about the storm's impact there.
Strong storms rolled through the region, downing trees and utility lines. The brunt of damage in Lee and Scott counties.
It's just a big windstorm come there and got it.
Part of the roof blew off at Elk Knob Elementary School, which damaged multiple solar panels in the process.
It's going to have a whole new, complete roof from the inside up on the front part. It'd be very expensive.
The Westgate Mall in Pennington Gap sustained significant damage. Business owners and employees telling us they're shocked by the damage.
That's just unbelievable because you really don't see that stuff in this area that much. You hear about it occasionally as something will touch down here or there, but
I looked out the window and everything was sideways and looked to my left and there it was.
Shane Collins says he first saw the damage on social media before he left his home.
I was in the lower end getting ready to go to ball practice, and we live in Jonesville, and we looked up toward Pennington and it was just black.
Though pieces of the shopping center's awning were scattered all around the building, Warner tells us he was relieved when he went inside.
I went in and checked on our stuff because I thought maybe the roof had caved in or something and we would have had damage inside, but surprisingly, nothing was damaged, and we're really happy about that, and nobody was hurt, which is the most important thing.
Temperatures around the world are likely to reach the warmest levels on record within the next 5 years. The World Meteorological Organization says greenhouse gases are one cause. El Nino is expected to play a role this year. The WMO says there's a large likelihood temperatures will exceed 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit above pre-industrial levels for at least one of the next 5 years. That's on a temporary basis, but happening more often. This means more extreme weather, rising seas, and more glacial melting, which could impact our lives in a lot of ways, from how we manage water to our health and even our food security. Military leaders in Myanmar are reportedly holding up humanitarian aid as the nation recovers from a powerful cyclone. Hundreds of people are feared dead after Cyclone Mocha slammed into the Southeast Asian nation on Sunday. Thousands more need shelter, clean water, food, and also health care. The full scope of devastation is not known because roads are flooded and communication basically is down. The latest update indicates the storm-packed winds of up to 195 miles an hour. And at least 8 people are dead in flooding in northern Italy. This is video of a pregnant woman being rescued from her home. Look at that. Thousands of others have been evacuated from their homes. The relentless rain also triggered landslides and submerged thousands of acres of farmland seen here. Some areas received half their annual average of rain in just 36 hours. And across the Adriatic Sea, flooding is also an issue in the Balkans, including Croatia. No deaths have been reported there, but roads look more like rivers. Many homes are filled with several feet of water. Unfortunately, more rain is in the forecast for the coming days. Parts of Yosemite are now underwater as this year's storms brought historic levels of rain and snow to the park. The park is open, but as Sophia Lesios reports, some areas remain closed to the public.
This is a walking path behind me, and this is a beautiful meadow behind me that's completely underwater.
The Merced River is forecasted to flood as temperatures remain high, according to the National Park Service. Lower and North Pines Campground, including Backpackers Campground and Housekeeping Camp, are closed until Friday, at least.
This is not going to just stop, but, the water has to go somewhere.
Rivers are full and some look pretty inviting. But don't let that fool you.
Anyone that comes to Yosemite I mean, look up Yosemite Falls. It's beautiful, but don't go near the water and certainly don't go in the water.
Getterman says Yosemite has had 2 swiftwater rescues this week alone. That's why the park has been continuously closing dangerous parts to protect visitors.
This is historic. This is the biggest snowpack on record, and people are seeing, not only Yosemite Falls and Bridal Veil at their fullest, but just waterfalls everywhere.
Flooding is also a problem in Alaska, where rapidly rising temperatures are quickly melting the snow. As you can see here, cars and roads are submerged. A big problem here is leaking oil and gas, which is contaminating the water. Now the concern is how this could impact drinking water. Officials in Utah are working hard to allow the rising water to stay within the creek and river banks. Jim Spiewak shows us how they hope dredging can prevent some flooding.
As the snow melts off, waterways are filling up with silt and debris, not allowing the water to flow as it should.
It's caused all sorts of flooding issues where we've had 3 or 4 feet of standing water.
UDOT has used this dredging equipment in Spanish Fork.
It's a unique machine. I don't know that we've ever used it before in this way.
And they've also used it on US 89 near Thistle, where flooding caused a closure. UDOT used that equipment, which drops a cable into the water.
And picks up all of the loose material, drags it up again, and then we deposit it over on the side so that we can clear a channel for the water to flow through.
John Gleason with UDOT says US 89 suffered erosion damage.
Our crews are going to be turning their focus from getting the water off of US 89 to now repairing that erosion.
The runoff this year has been unprecedented. So when you think about flood prep, a good portion of it includes work like this.
And that's what we're trying to do. We're taking extraordinary measures, trying to clear a path through the creek so that the water has a place to go.
Temps will be in the 80s for the foreseeable future, and crews say they knew this day was most likely coming.
Bad news for Florida's citrus crop. This year's crop is expected to be more than 60% less than last year. One reason for the huge decline is a plant disease known as greening, but another is the impact of last year's hurricane season. El Peefley spoke with citrus farmers outside of West Palm Beach, Florida.
But for now, the latest orange crop forecast from the USDA is sobering. The latest USDA citrus forecast says the 2022-2023 Florida orange crop, which includes all oranges, both Valencia and non-Valencia, will be 62% less than last season's orange production in Florida.
It's troubling, but there were a lot of things that added to that. Not only greening and the decline we're seeing with greening, but we had 2 hurricanes crisscross the state that really dramatically reduced our crop.
Ian went right up through the citrus belt. And so that already took a very small crop and made it smaller.
The USDA says Florida's grapefruit crop for 2022-2023 is also forecast to be smaller than last year. Richie says the good news is this shouldn't affect prices at the supermarket too much because juice and fruit prices are already high.
I don't think we'll see any further increases. I think we're at a point now where we've plateaued.
Richie says he believes Florida's citrus crop will rebound next year as long as we're not hit with another hurricane again that could damage a lot of the citrus trees.
Time will tell if Maine's apples sustain damage following this week's freezing temperatures overnight. But an orchard owner says he took precautions to make sure his crop stayed safe.
Depends on where on your farm. Low-lying areas might get colder. Where it's out in the open, where there's some breeze blowing, might not be so bad. So, do I expect maybe a little bit of damage? Yes. Do I expect it to be wiped out? No, not at all. I think we'll still have a good crop.
Mike Thompson prepared for the cold by applying a nutrient spray to his apple trees. Golf's PGA Championship is underway this morning near Rochester, New York, but the start of the first round was delayed for nearly 2 hours because of frost. It was just 32 degrees at 6 a.m. near the record low for today. The average last freeze is late April. Playing on frost can damage the surface and make grass susceptible to disease. And coming up by the National Weather Desk, the 3 things to do every year to help your spring garden grow. And it's rare, but a woman was bitten by a shark while wading in the ocean.
I'm meteorologist Troy Lopresti. Look at the Northeast. It's a chilly start in the Northeast this morning. A nice rebound should be expected this afternoon with most towns running the 60s. Notice the nice clear sky. We have lighter winds than yesterday. That's the key to, I think, a better feeling day. That's about 3:30 in the afternoon today. Now, as we go through Friday, temperatures will get a little bit warmer. We'll add in a few more clouds, especially in southern New England. Many towns will be in the 60s and 70s. Our next round of rain will overspread the Northeast on Saturday.
I'm meteorologist Jonathan Myers, and here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. A crisp start and then sunshine to greet us during the day on our Thursday. Look at these temperatures. Very nice, although a little cool for this time of year. Lots of 60s to right around 70 degrees up and down the 95 corridor. You're going to need some sunglasses, too, as sunshine stays with those relatively cool May temperatures. Fair weather high pressure is our latest weather maker. Turns warmer, though, as we head towards the weekend. That's the scene here.
I'm meteorologist Vitas Reed. Taking a look at your southeast forecast highs. We're seeing 81 degrees in Nashville, Birmingham 78. Cooler temperatures in Atlanta, right around 68 degrees, 71 in Macon, compared to 90 degrees in West Palm. Some hot air in South Florida. But we're looking at some showers and thunderstorms that are going to be developing as we see an upper level low moving through parts of the southeast. You can see over parts of North Carolina and South Carolina, a few spotty showers north of Jacksonville, and then down I-95 through parts of Florida.
Presented by the National Weather Desk.
This lightning may look like an upside-down plasma ball, but these are cloud-to-air flashes, one of several types of lightning that don't touch the ground. This cloud-to-ground lightning was captured as storms moved near Portland, Oregon this week, and this wind grew fierce as a storm passed over the Tri-Cities area near Bristol, Virginia, and Tennessee.
Want to see your weather photos and videos on TV? Click Chime In on this station's website to share.
Fire danger levels are very high in northern Wisconsin these days. Meteorologist Christian Palacio explains what's behind the elevated levels.
Across the state, things are greening up, but due to very dry conditions, there is still a danger that we must be aware of.
That period between snow cover and spring green up is the peak of our fire season. And it normally starts in the southern part of the state and appears.
Catherine Cooley is the wildfire prevention specialist for the Wisconsin DNR. She tells me that due to very low relative humidity, warmer temperatures, increased winds, and dry vegetation, fire danger levels can increase.
Typically by Memorial Day, we are, fire season's wrapped up. Now, we could have stretches with no rain, and that can knock things back. So certainly it's kind of a, week to week thing. In terms of how it can progress.
For forecasting, the DNR works closely with the National Weather Service.
And we do anticipate a little bit of rain on Thursday. So we're going to be keeping an eye on that, and hopefully that will help minimize that fire danger.
While the DNR is advising against any burning outdoors in the northern part of the state, given the current conditions, it is not prohibiting the use of campfires.
If you choose to have a small campfire for warming or cooking, obviously pay attention to your surroundings, make sure that the environment is clear of flammable material. Have a water source, keep it small, keep it contained.
Wherever you plan to camp, make sure you check the local fire danger levels, and most importantly, make sure you put the fire out before you leave.
A woman waiting on a South Carolina beach was bitten by a shark last weekend. It was the first reported shark attack on the Isle of Palms in several years, and comes as the number of shark and human interactions is actually falling. Kennedy Buck is just outside of Charleston with details.
It's extremely rare. It does not happen frequently at all in South Carolina, and actually across, the entire world. It's a rare event.
Authorities confirm a woman was injured from a shark bite on Isle of Palms.
The patient was in around waist to chest deep water. when the event happened. It's a case of mistaken identity. Our water is not the most clear, and so a shark will mistake, other objects, humans or anything in the ocean for prey, when they're actively feeding. And if you are, wading or swimming or surfing and you're in an area where you see a lot of bait fish around you and you have shorebirds that are diving into those bait fish, that means that there could be other fish around feeding on those smaller fish, and you want to remove yourself from that area to be aware of your surroundings. That's the biggest thing when you're out there in the water. Make sure you know where your children are, make sure you're paying attention to the ocean, the conditions, the wind, all those things.
It's that time of the year when people get out on the trail to hike or even to bike. And in some places, this is the time when people gather and forage. But there's dangers on the trails. Michael Santos-Coy is in Bozeman, Montana with a look at some of those risks and what you can do to stay safe.
Stellar hiking weather is on the way for Montana with more sunny days as summer approaches, but melting snow left behind from winter is creating a slippery hazard for hikers and gatherers. I sat down with the Gallatin County Search and Rescue Commander to find out how common it is for people to get lost or injured in the wilderness during spring and summer.
This is slip trip fall season. We're coming right up on it. We're kind of through the shoulder season and we're back to hiking, biking, horseback, motorcycles, that kind of season. So the potential for that loss number to increase is probably about to go up exponentially, and same with the injuries. They both go up this time of year.
So far this spring, Sikor says there hasn't been a large number of calls for rescues, but he urges hikers and gatherers to be prepared for the worst case scenario and to remain calm to relieve anxiety and stress.
We know it can be scary and it can be anxiety inducing to not know where you're at, but if you stop, take some deep breaths, take some time to think about it, stay put, don't move. Make the call and we'll come get you.
What advice would you give gatherers and travelers to have on hand with them to make sure that they get lost, and just what should they have on hand?
So first of all, they should have a plan of where they're going, where they're starting from, how they're traveling to get there, and what their final destination. And then to be prepared for the conditions, so layering up, having the proper clothing, having a communication device, whether it be a GPS communication device or a charged phone, and having a partner or a group of people.
Most of us have started our spring garden, but as the weather continues to warm up, there are a few mistakes that many home gardeners make. To help you avoid those mistakes, we head to Columbus, Ohio, where meteorologist Andrew Buck-Michael is standing by in his garden.
Hey everybody, meteorologist Andrew Buck-Michael here out at my garden, and I'm going to share with you, in my opinion, the 3 most important tips for starting your garden each spring. The first tip, how wet the soil is. All right, so the first piece of advice, you do not want your soil to be too wet. So we take the soil, try to crumple it up, and it falls apart pretty easily. This is ideally what you want. Why don't you want it any wetter than this? Well, I'll show you. All right, let's dive into this. Whoops. So take this soil and squeeze it. Now, if it holds its shape like this, this is too wet, because when this dries out, it is going to be like concrete for those roots to try to break through. So if you plant when the soil's a little drier, a little looser, those roots can really start to take off. Now, speaking of those roots taking off, time for tip number 2. So for tip number 2, and I have to say, I'm not sponsored, I use my own money to buy this, but using some sort of starter fertilizer is huge. I did a test a couple of years ago where I planted some starter fertilizer on some plants and not on others, and you could easily see a difference with that plant taking off, thriving, a better root system. So when you get a dry spell, the plants can pull in more moisture, more nutrients, and you don't need to water as much when you do get a dry spell. All right, so my third and final piece of advice when you're planting and starting your garden for the spring is to not water the plants too much. Yesterday it was a lot warmer, and these zucchini plants that are my daughter's, they were wilted, they didn't look good at all, and I wanted to water them. However, dig down into the soil. If there's still plenty of moisture, don't water the plants just yet, because then the roots will fight for that moist soil, that moisture, and that way when it does dry out, potentially in a couple of months in the summertime, these plants will do a lot better and you won't have to water nearly as much. Hopefully that helps. I gotta go wash my hands.
Well, this bear would love to find a nice garden In this yard near Pensacola, Florida, a viewer shared these photos with meteorologist James Spann, who put them on Instagram. You can see the bear trying to get seeds out of the bird feeder. Look at that. He also takes a break appearing to pose for the picture. Florida officials estimate 120 bears live in that part of Florida. And as we go to break, views of the Bitterroot River in western Montana.
Good Thursday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buck-Michael. We've got some scattered showers, even a few storms across the plains. This is slowly going to be moving east over the next few days here. Plenty of sunshine across most of the Great Lakes in the Ohio Valley. As we head into your Friday, sun comes back out across the plains. However, that rain continues moving its way closer to the Great Lakes in the Ohio Valley. By the time that we get to Saturday, it's kicking out of here early in the morning, and we've got plenty of sun on the way for the entire Midwest for Saturday.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. Here's a look at your regional weather. We're starting off a little bit on the cool side up toward the northern portion of the region into the 60s, warm and humid on down toward the south into the 70s. We'll be watching a couple of systems today. One will bring some scattered rain in Louisiana. The other will see more rain up into North Texas. Otherwise, partly cloudy skies for the region and warming up into the 70s and 80s. I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia, and that's a look at your regional weather.
Well, hi there and good Thursday morning to everybody. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. It's all about the heat and the haze out west. We're talking about temps again, 90s for Vegas and for Phoenix versus the 60s due to the May gray, the marine layer back along the California coastline. Pacific Northwest is where it all comes together in an interesting fashion. We've got thunderstorms pushing into parts of Montana and wildfire smoke from fires there in Alberta getting in the way of the sun in Seattle. And that's the scene from here.
Watching the National Weather Desk.
Smoke from the wildfires in western Canada is still causing some hazy skies across the country. This shot was taken yesterday in Minnesota, and you can see the smoke right in front of the sun. Meteorologist Kristen Clark talked about it in an Instagram post.
Some made note of a smoke-filled sunrise over parts of Washington state, like this picture captured by Randy Small there in Linden, Whatcom County, early Wednesday morning. This is smoke originating from numerous wildfires that are actively burning across BC and Alberta, Canada. The visible satellite early Wednesday morning even captured that very thin veil of high-level smoke drifting into northern Washington state. But you know what? This smoke is so thin and so high above the ground that no impacts to surface air quality are expected.
And we'd love to share your weather content on the air. You can find us on all of your favorite social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and you can search at NAT Desk or the National Weather Desk. And a reminder to check out our podcast, Off the Radar. New episodes dropping every Tuesday. This week is all about Mars and what the weather on the red planet is really like. You can find Off the Radar wherever you get your podcasts. And thank you so much for joining us. Tomorrow on the National Weather Desk, we'll take you across the nation and see how the weather could impact some of the biggest events taking place this weekend. I'm Angela Brown. Make it a great day, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.